Order the City Council workshop for June 24th, 2025. Has anyone signed up to speak?
No, sir.
Let's then start with Mr. Brimhall.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Been here about 5 weeks now. It's my third meeting. I timed it almost perfect to be here 5 weeks and make 3 meetings. So,
I think we've only had 3 meetings in 5 weeks. Congratulations. That's good.
You made them all.
yeah, we're very busy. We're looking forward to some of the items this evening that may or may not take a while. But we do have a little bit of information that we would like to present to council just for some input regarding a contract that DBAT has with the city to run the sports complex and bring in tournaments. They do receive a highly reduced rate if they're bringing in tournaments, and we know that they have not been doing such a great job at bringing those in. We have spoken with Nico, who is running that center and attracting the tournaments and such, and he has informed us of some conflicts and some, how do you say it? Just some of the inner workings of his industry that can be a bit cutthroat, and he's been very honest and open with us that it's a regretful situation, and he may be walking in this door at any moment, so I'm going to try to kind of vamp a little bit, but just to give the council a bit of an idea of where we're coming from. We've been working with him. We've been open in our communication with Nico about the circumstances that he's trying to navigate over there. Rosa has a lot of information about this a lot of background on this that I don't have. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the time over to her, and hopefully in so doing and in her presentation, Nico will come in and we can avail him to yell for questions.
Okay.
Rosa.
Batter up.
Howdy.
Hi.
Not as tall as Jay. So like Jay already said, we work with DBAT. Nico's on his way, but Nico has definitely informed us that he doesn't think they're going to meet their tournament teams this year. Per their contract, they're required to have 104 tournaments for the calendar year. Currently, they only have 103. That is accumulation of 3 tournaments in total. So they don't think they're going to meet their quota. Their contract does end this calendar year, so we are in the last term of the current agreement. But he, like Jay said, is very candid and honest with us in saying that they don't think they're going to meet the tournament requirements.
Okay,
So-
aren't they just behind with 1? Did you say they had 103 and they're supposed to have 104?
Correct. So right now, this time last year, they had almost half of that. So they are severely behind compared to how they normally perform this time of year. Any other questions?
I'm still confused.
Okay.
Me too.
So they host anywhere from 20, 25 tournaments usually each year. The way the contract is written is that they're required to have a certain number of tournament teams. So in any one given tournament, they can have 20 teams, they can
Right.
have 80 teams. And so this year they've only hosted 3 tournaments, and in those 3 tournaments, they've only had 103 tournament teams.
Okay,
And so for the calendar year, they're supposed to have 403 tournament teams,
okay,
and we're only at 103.
403.
yeah.
So they're missing the mark as of right now by about 300 teams. And Nico has said that based on the direction they're getting from the parent company, that they're not planning on hosting any tournaments out here. Yes. Does that clarify?
So is he looking at giving up a lease?
No. So, and Jay kind of spoke to this a little bit, but they're unsure, and by they I mean the parent company of the organization that runs DBAT, or operations out here, are unsure. They're in the process of potentially selling the company. they're looking at a few different avenues, which is why they're kind of, in the meantime, they've told Nico, put a pause on play. We're not scheduling any tournaments while we figure out what we plan to do with the organization. And so indirectly affecting what we're able to do out at the sports complex. Or I guess directly affecting what we can do at the
May I
sports
ask some
complex.
questions?
Sure, I may or I may not have answers.
This is not the first year that they've been behind on their tournament count, correct?
To the best of my knowledge, is the first year. There have,
This is the only year that they've been behind.
yes, yeah,
We had a
every,
conversation similar to this a couple of years ago.
correct. And from the best of my knowledge, they still managed to meet their quota. Now, for a little bit of reference, sometimes it does come down to the finish line, the end of the year. Last year, they finished with 403 tournament teams as opposed to 401 tournament teams they're required to have. So they do sometimes in November start cranking out some more tournaments and getting more teams in. But Nico, again, being very candid, has said that he has no expectation that they'll host any additional tournaments this year.
Have we been candid with Nico about the terms of his contract?
Yes, sir.
Have
Yeah.
we been candid with Nico's parent company about the terms of their contract?
Through Nico, yes, we have not had direct communication with,
To our best knowledge, the parent company understands the terms of their contract?
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Here's what I would like to know, and I don't want to put you on the spot, and you haven't been here long enough to put on the spot, so I'm
You
going
can
to
put
put
me on the
everybody
Put
on
them
the spot.
on the spot.
You can put me on the spot.
Someone stand up, we can put on the spot.
Always happy to. be
What's
put
the
on spot.
plan?
Well, so that's part of why we wanted to bring that to you. So this is the end of the initial 3-year term, and there are 2 one-year options if both parties would like to continue and require 60 days notice. There's a few things that we talked about in the contract that just don't really work well. So one of which is they're required to have, if they have 0 to 100 tournaments and 1 stay and play, they will pay in the following year a base rent of $17,000 a month. If they have 100 to 200 tournaments and 2 stay and plays, then they'll pay $10,000. And when they get to 400 tournaments and 4 stay and plays, which means they're staying in a hotel here in Kerrville, their base rent is 0. So at the end of this year, if they didn't meet those goals, well, they would pay you $10,000. But if they don't renew the agreement, well, they don't owe you anything, right? So we would like to, that would be a change that we would like to see, where you would get reimbursed. You would pay a monthly rent and you would get reimbursed at the end of the year if you met these milestones.
Yeah, so there's nothing in place right now in the contract that says if you don't perform per the contract by December 31st, you will
Pay a base
reimburse the
rent.
county or the city X number of dollars. There's
No.
nothing in there that says anything like that right now.
If the contract is renewed for an additional year, then they would pay whatever base rent is applicable based on whatever number they come up with, right? So presumably they could get to 400 by the end of December and they'd have their tournaments. It doesn't sound as though that's going that way. And so what we wanted to talk to y'all about is, so it's the end of this 3-year term that has options for 2 one-year renewals. That whole conversation, and Nico, hopefully he's on his way. But it sounds unclear where the direction of their parent companies are at. And we have an asset to protect, and so we wanted to come bring to you, where would you like to head? The options to consider from our standpoint is to put this out for requests for proposals, qualifications, and put this out to bid, notify DBAT that we would be putting this out to bid, terminate the agreement at the end of this year, potentially. So all things are on the table, right? And we're looking for a little bit of direction on where council would like to head.
So the current DBAT is having some financial difficulties, or they would be, I mean, that's what this all means, right?
Yeah, so they make their money off of the tournaments, right? They make it off of
But they're all over
concessions.
the country.
Say it again?
They're all over the country. It's not just this location.
Is DBAT all over the country? I don't know that DBAT is all over the
I
country.
just saw one, on the road somewhere.
Okay, yeah, so it's a funny industry, right? So there's a parent company and then Perfect Game is the sort of the big national kind of a Microsoft, I guess you would say, of all that. And I think they are the ultimate owners of DBAT.
We have
But they-
60 days.
Say it again?
We have 60 days.
60 days prior to December, the end of the year. Yes, sir. Yeah, so by October 1st. Now, I would say that it takes a little while to transition from one to the other, right? They're big operations. And so, you know, it was even a little rushed in Jay's estimation because we want to make sure we have enough time to talk to Nico to you know, kind of flesh out some more of these details. But then on the other side of it, you know, you have the looming kind of deadline in front of you.
So it seems like we could go ahead and to say we're not willing to renew now.
You 100% is within your purview to say that.
And then they could resubmit a proposal.
They, yes,
And
they
so
could.
we could put it out for bid, and they'd be welcome to bid again, and we just have to see what they come up with.
100%, that's an option, yeah.
What about the money that you've lost already, though? You have any recourse? You don't have like an acceleration clause or something that says when you're not meeting the contract you got into, we don't have to wait till it's expiring? You know what I mean?
Yes, ma'am, I do know what you mean.
Because it seems like to me, they may want us to terminate this contract. I mean, you know, it's like, otherwise, why would they be so forthright if they're gonna be penalized with?
Well, I think that they're subject to powers greater than themselves, right? That dictate terms down to the, you know, sort of child organizations. You know, Nico's very much you know, he's loved this place. There he is. He is, like I said, been kind of open and honest about it, and I think there's pressures from above that, you know, weigh on the ability to put tournaments in place here.
I'd love to see some action.
So, Nico, to catch you up,
Excuse me.
we've been talking about, you know, what you've told us about where you see the tournament schedules going and probably not meeting, you know, all 400 of those obligations by the end of this year, that this year is the end of the initial term, and giving the council their, here are the options that are in front of them. We have both you and the city have the opportunity 60 days prior to the end of that initial term to renew or to terminate the contract. And we've been talking about what those options would include, to include putting out RFPs for after the end of this year. Okay.
Would you care
Mayor-
to make a statement or anything? Please do. We have to record it or there, either one.
I really don't know how much has been said to y'all at this point.
If we could get your name and address for the record, please.
Nico Gonzalez. My address is 31514 Meadow Creek Trail, Fair Oaks Ranch, Texas.
Thank you.
I don't know where y'all are at on caught up to speed on what's gone down, but I'm going to give you kind of a lay of the land just to get the background on how this has all happened and where we're at right now in this point in time. So Tom Howdeshell, I don't know if you know him or don't, he had DBAT. I run a baseball organization. His sons played for me. I'm engraved in baseball as deep as you probably can get, from scouting in the MLB side to owning fields across Texas, et cetera, et cetera. Tom came to me and my partner and said, hey, there's an opportunity with DBAT Kerrville. Obviously, you guys are in the tournament game. Do you want to be a part of it? As this going on, there's a company called Walk Off Sports who me and my partner were investors in, still are. This company, Walk Off Sports, has fields across Texas, Central Texas, San Antonio, everywhere. So instead of me and my partner going to Tom and saying, hey, we're going to do this deal with you. Well, we were invested on the walk-off side, so we took it to them and said, hey, do we want to put this a part of the portfolio? That all goes down. We have, 10 meetings with city and making sure they vetted us, make sure we were comfortable of doing this. So the deal happens. It's under Walk-Off Sports. BTP Baseball Ventures is now a DBA of the main company. To the public, it kind of looks like I'm sole owner, but I'm an investor, and I'm also the general manager of DBAT Kerrville. For the first, from 2019, go through COVID, we do fine. Till now, it's ran kind of as a great business. It's been great for the community. It's been great for everyone involved until November of 2024. In November of 2024, some people from our Austin division had up and left, basically operators that have been with the company, up and left, and it caused a lot of chaos in the main company. So with that happening, basically, we had to go find other operators for the whole thing. Our general partner is the guy that signed the documents. His name's Josh Sanders. Went to Perfect Game headquarters out of Atlanta and said, hey, can you guys bail us out of this? Well, Perfect Game headquarters comes down here. They start running operations, and this is scratching the surface of everything that's gone down. There's some legal stuff that I can't say, but they come down. They start running operations. In Kerrville, I've always treated DBAT as Switzerland in the sense of anybody who wants to host, I've let them host, whether it was tournament companies like Perfect Game, 5-Tool, NCS, softball, baseball, kind of let everything happen. And it was fine for the first 4 years of doing this prior to this year. Well, Perfect Game headquarters comes in and says, hey, you guys are we're only supposed to be doing Perfect Game. He notices that I'm not doing Perfect Game here. I get a phone call saying, hey, any tournament that's not Perfect Game, you have to basically cancel that's on your schedule. This is news to me because for the prior 4 years, I'd been able to run anything. Everything was simple, easy to do. This year, he cancels it all. Not only did he cancel it all, there's a new point of contact. And I go to that point of contact. I said, hey, here's my dates that I want for this coming spring. Well, kind of drags his feet. I don't get a response. Those tournaments end up not happening. So far, we've had one softball event through Ingram High School, who puts that on every year in February. We were used as an overfill site for an Austin tournament when they had rain up there. They came and used, that's our one baseball event. And then just recently, we had our Father's Day showcase for girls softball. Those are 3 tournaments. 17 have been canceled. We should have a total of 20 right now. We should be well over 550 teams at this point due to this new regime change that is potentially going to buy out Walk-Off Sports, the big company, which then they would have to come in here and try to make relationships. And I've told them I'm not going to work for them. I'm not going to work for a corporate company, and I don't think Kerrville is a corporate town. I think it's definitely a town that is very people and honest relationships, good people. So that's kind of the lay of the land on my reputation of coming to y'all saying, hey, this is not something that I've condoned. It's just kind of been something that I can't control at this point. The sale of the company, if it happens, we'll see what happens. But as far as the numbers go and everything, that's kind of I know you asked for a statement, but that's kind of a story of what's gone down. If y'all have any questions, I can answer.
I do have a question. You said Perfect Game bails out someone, but I don't know who Perfect Game was bailing out.
The parent company Walk-Off, they did not have enough operators to keep the company going, which is the main entity over all of the DBAs, which there's a lot of, Kerrville being one of those DBAs.
Listening to the story, the narrative, made me realize that this is, like baseball itself, a lot more complicated than it appears.
Mm-hmm.
Is there light at the end of the tunnel, or what's going to happen?
I've offered $500,000 to buy them out from this entity alone.
Right?
That has been said no to. They wanted a part of the full package. It comes down to control. And so as territories work, if one company can own all those territories and they block other companies from using those areas, and that's what they're more in wanting the control. And I said, look, I'm from Bernie. I grew up around Kerrville all the time. I know everybody in the community. For me, I'm taking the brunt of this as people saying, Nico, like, why aren't you having tournaments? What's going on? Why aren't there renovations done to the place? Well, tournaments is how I make 80% of the income here. So when there's fixes that need to be done to the cages or a lights out or anything, I usually rely on that income. Well, for this whole year, 3 events is not able. And so for my reputation and for the good of the community is why I felt like I needed to speak, because I have been kind of appointed as the person for this location for the big company. In this case, it's kind of worked against me in the sense of taking the heat, but it's no big deal. My end goal is to hopefully get the lease for myself, and that's my end goal. That's my selfish goal is for myself. Not in this meeting, but if it ever gets open back up, hopefully I can put my name in the ring to do the job that I did the last 4 years versus what's gone down this year.
Oh,
You got something?
Well, I was just gonna say, so perfect, whatever, the
Perfect game.
Perfect game.
Okay, they understood the liabilities by not honoring the contract, or were they aware that this was, this, we're supposed to, you committed to having so many tournaments, they know that, right?
I would say it's 99% they do know it. They just
They
do not
just-
want competitors using this place because they had an exclusive deal with Walk-Off.
Thank you for coming.
Nico,
Sir.
2 things. So it's not people don't want to come to Kerrville. It's the perfect game won't allow them to come to Kerrville. Is that correct? Is that what I'm hearing?
To a degree. So people love Kerrville. They love coming here. We've been successful every year, except they wouldn't let us host the events that were outside of the perfect game realm. And then they weren't allowing, when I gave them dates for Perfect Game, their entity, they drug their feet and didn't post those dates online for people to see the tournaments to come to Kerrville. So it was a combination of both in the sense of, I know this is convoluted, but it's very, Perfect Game is an entity that hosts tournaments for boys baseball from 8 years old to 14 years old. There's competitors, one's called 5-Tool and one's called NCS. In years past, we've ran Perfect Game, 5-Tool, and NCS all on the complex. We were Switzerland. I thought the whole time other parks are known for Perfect Game only. Since I was able to run that way this whole time, I wasn't aware that I was supposed to be Perfect Game only because our general partner in our company didn't mind it because it was income for the company. This company is more about control, where when they came in, they said, you cannot do that. And because I couldn't do that, and then because they drug their feet on not putting out dates on time, it resulted in not having any 3 tournaments, which 2 of those were not related to what's going on here.
So the other 2 companies that you just mentioned, would they be interested in being a parent company for Kerrville?
Yes, everybody would. This place it's the best place, honestly. I do stuff everywhere. The deal that is here is the best one out of any city. San Antonio, Dallas, Houston, Austin. It's the best. It's the creme de la creme. The fields are top notch. The city does a tremendous job. You guys work with us constantly. There's no better. Everyone's going to want to be here, in my opinion.
And the last thing, you brought his name up in the beginning. Is Tom Howdeshell still involved with you at all? I mean, he's,
As a friend, not as a
so he
business.
has nothing to do with DBAT over there anymore.
No, sir.
Okay. I was trying to figure out the correlation of his name being brought up in the beginning and nothing else said, so.
Yeah, he sold it to us, and he was the caveat there.
Thank you.
Could you advise us, if you were sitting on our side of the dais, what would you think we should do?
It would depend on, I would do 2 things either. One, I think you guys know that the numbers will not be hit, so something needs to be done to fix this sooner the better. 2, take it under the city of Kerrville and hire out people to run it. Those would be my 2 options.
We're under contract, though.
I think we should put it back out for bid. I mean,
I would agree.
You're ready to bid.
I'm ready to bid.
We can do that legally.
Is that,
I don't know if it's early enough, late enough for y'all to give us a recommendation on, we're not gonna take a vote tonight. We're just gonna have consensus tonight, but, does staff have a recommendation?
Well, so first, Nico has been very upfront with us. You know, we found this out and it's just it's a mess, you know. I think our recommendation is if you give us, a meeting or two and we'll bring it back with, here are some options to consider. We can bring that back in a workshop if you like. And probably would include high on that list, taking it back out for, RFP. You know, and, I based on the way that we looked at this agreement, and Nico might not like this piece, but front-loading your rent and saying, here, give us the rent, and then at the end of the year, if you've met all your obligations, you can have that back. Towards the end of your contract, you're really killing yourself, because,
I would agree.
yeah,
Shooting yourself in the foot.
we do, and it works out well for them. And so there's some provisions that we'd like to amend in the contract language. And the best way to do that is to say, okay, this contract would come to an end and would put out an RFP. Here's new contract terms. And like Nico said, there's a lot of people that want to come do business here. So I think you would get some good offers, to consider.
Nico, what's your last name?
Gonzalez.
I'm sorry?
Gonzalez.
Gonzalez. Mr. Gonzalez, thank you for being here tonight.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for your work on behalf of Kerrville and Kerrville Sports.
Yes, sir.
We represent the asset, the physical asset.
Yes, sir.
You represent the operations of that asset. And so, a workshop, we don't take votes.
Yes,
We
sir.
learn about things. And so we can't make a motion to say, do this and do that and do this tonight.
For sure.
But from what staff's saying, in a few meetings from now, probably in July or early August, they'll come back to us and say, we recommend A, B, and C. And that's when we can actually make those votes. Does that
No,
sound clear?
That's perfect, yeah. And the last thing I'll touch on is the business could sell tomorrow, just so y'all are aware. They are in negotiations.
Which business?
Walk Off Sports, which
Okay.
has
Which is
a
a
DBA of BTP and THC baseball.
below perfect game.
Yeah, Perfect Game's looking to buy it out.
Okay.
So if Perfect Game buys it out, they would be coming here to speak with whoever on taking over the lease. So I think on top of why they blocked me from running tournaments, I think they knew it was gonna sell before the end of the year. And so since they knew it was gonna sell before the end of the year, they're the new people coming in, and now this year's kind of a wash for someone who comes in and buys it. It goes back to Michael's point on the front load of the rent. If someone could wait till November, and if it sells, then the city's the loser in the
Yep.
case of, you're not gonna get the rent.
Yep.
That's due the next year.
All right.
So we want to replace that contract anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, if
So,
nothing else,
You
yeah.
know, we might as well do a new RFP.
Any other questions, comments on this item?
Thank
Thanks
you.
for coming tonight.
Thank you for being
Thank
here
you, Nico.
tonight. Anything else from staff?
No, sir.
Anything else from council? He looks at everybody. All right, hearing none, I'm going to go ahead and adjourn this workshop at 5:29.